also bring your attention that the police reports and the incidents referred to by the DA from the early 2000s also is attenuated in time, also a very young man. And
It's about 20 years ago. I think he was 15 years old at the time.
Yes.
21 years ago.
So for that, I'd ask you to give it
All right.
a little weight, if you would.
So thank you for that preliminary sort of ground, setting the table. I'm happy to proceed however is most efficient and also comfortable for the individuals from the public that wish to speak and give their victim impact statements. And so, Commonwealth, I know you provided me with a list of individuals who either wanted to speak or have something read on their behalf. Is that list still current this morning?
Yes, Your Honor. I know in terms of Kendall's statement, I will be reading that into the record for the court's benefit. The list is the same. I know the Commonwealth had submitted 18 written impact statements to the
I read
court.
them all.
And I think 2 more came in this morning.
I have them right here, and I haven't read them. One of them is Kendall's, I see, and you're going to read that.
Yes.
And the other are, I will read before, obviously, I make any decision. But I did read all the ones that I had received earlier.
And I think the order, what's that?
They're these, the same ones. The other two.
Okay, so in terms of 7 and 8, which the court had provided the list, 2 of them are on Zoom, Madam Clerk.
Okay,
Or is that
we have the
prepared?
television up, so I
Okay.
can see them.
Right, so other than that, Your Honor, I don't see any reason, if that's the next stage, why we wouldn't
All right,
proceed.
and so I do the victim impact statements right from here so that I can have a bird's eye view of the individual that's speaking, and then of course we'll use the TV for anybody that's online.
Now, I've advised the parties what the ground rules are for impact statements, so I'm confident they will be appropriate.
Okay, great. So we can have Elizabeth Sisson first.
If I may, Your Honor,
Yes.
before we begin, I was waiting for the right opportunity to interrupt. My client would
It's
also
hard with me.
like to make a statement. I don't know when you would like him to do that.
So I always, in the scheme of things, I do the victim impact statements. Then I'll ask for your arguments, and then usually the last thing I do before I end the sort of evidentiary, we'll call it, part of the sentencing hearing, is to ask the defendant if he wishes to speak, and I give him an opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good morning, Judge Frenier. I'm sorry I've written and rewritten this so many times, and I still don't know if I'll ever be able to say everything I want to say. My name is Elizabeth Sisson. My world changed the day that Claire was killed. I don't recognize the person I am today versus the one I used to be. It was always in my nature to do for others rather than ask for help myself. I was a super busy mom, juggling sports, scouts, carpool, school projects, away games, and everything else in daily life. I worked a demanding job as a field account manager in technology sales that required skill, confidence, focus, and high energy. My children could always count on me to be there for them no matter what. And life was happy and busy and crazy, and we talked about the future with hope and excitement. But now I function in survival mode, ruled by loss, fear, and grief. The car crash destroyed my life and caused a ripple effect of damage that can never be undone. I've lost my sense of self. I'm still afraid to drive, and I'm a nervous passenger. I'm fearful of new places and I struggle to learn new things. I can't contribute and support my family and friends like I used to. I've lost my independence. I am clawing and fighting to find a semblance of a life that I can accept, but I'm not sure one exists. After Claire died, I didn't want to live. The ache of Claire's loss is overwhelming to me. It's like touching the sun. But I know, too, that I'm not the only one feeling this pain. It's devastating to watch my son and my husband grieve and cope, or to not be able to cope with Claire's death. I try to hide my grief and fear from them, worried that it will hurt them even more. I wish I could take their pain away and spare them from their grief, but I don't have that power. As a family, we cling together to stay afloat. Our table of 4 is now 3. Our house is quiet as a tomb. The colors of our world are dull. Ken and I would talk to the kids about how, as adults, Claire and Ted would be friends. They would be each other's weddings and watch each other's children grow up. And as grandparents, we would spoil their kids rotten. As siblings, they would always have each other. That will never be. Every milestone, every achievement in our lives is missing Claire. Claire wasn't given a chance to experience life past the age of 13. I grieve for the life she could have led. She had such a brightness to her, like a light that shined within. Claire cared so deeply about her friends and was sensitive to others' feelings. Claire had such a promising life ahead of her. She didn't deserve to die. She deserved to live a full life and experience everything life had to offer. She would have made such a difference in this world had she lived. The pain and suffering that Kendall has endured haunts me. I look at Kendall and I see Claire. I see Kendall's smile and I think about Claire. They were so alike. They even looked alike. And I can't take Kendall's pain away. I can't fix her. I can't make it go away. I couldn't protect Claire and I couldn't protect Kendall. And I have to live with that. But if I can help protect another person from dying or suffering at the hands of Gregory Goodsell, then that is what I will do until my last breath. Please help me keep him from ever doing this again. He can watch the sunrise every day and breathe the air and see his family. His freedom might be restricted, but he gets to walk away from the devastation he left behind. But Claire won't ever see another sunrise, and we won't ever escape the devastation of losing Claire. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me, Your Honor.
May I proceed?
Yes.
Your Honor, next is, thank you. Your Honor, next is the impact statement as written by Kendall that I've been asked to read to the court.
Yes, I'll follow.
May I
along.
proceed?
Yes.
This traumatic event changed my life forever. Mentally, physically, emotionally, and socially, there hasn't been a day where I don't think about all the different things I lost that day or what happened to me. Not only did I lose my best friend, but I lost a part of myself that day that I will never get back. My feelings are so chaotic from the trauma that I have. I can randomly get mad at something or someone or get sad. I was not at all like this before the crash. Every year on December 29, I sit in my house with my family because there is a fear that if I go out in a car that day, something will happen. Standing up for the first time after being bedridden for so long was a pain that is unimaginable. It felt a stabbing pain. I felt a stabbing pain behind my knees. In the hospital, I have a very specific memory that I will never forget. My therapist brought me back into my hospital room and brought me to wash my hands. She made me stand up so I could practice that routine again, even though it was so hard. When I stood up, there was a huge horizontal mirror staring at me, and that is when I saw the new me. I saw the very pronounced scar on the right side of my face and under my eye. I saw the feeding tube coming out of my nose. I saw how injured my eye was. I just stood there speechless, nothing going through my brain, having absolutely no idea how I even looked like that. Emotionally, I think about something that I know I shouldn't, but I really can't help myself. What I could have done to prevent this from happening to us. I could have just gone to the bathroom before we left the house that day, or taken a little longer to get ready, and that could have probably prevented all of this. I could have prevented my own pain and hurt, my family's hurt, Claire's pain and hurt, and the whole community's hurt. I could have saved Claire's life if I was just a minute late to everything I did that morning. Socially, people can tell I have scars. The beach is where I feel it the most. I'll get random questions asking what happened from random people in random places. At those times, I freeze up and get extremely insecure, and eventually say that I don't feel comfortable talking about it. Claire was my best friend, the sister I never had, and my twin. If I needed anything, Claire was always there for me before I even realized I needed someone. I'll never take the times I had with Claire for granted. I will now know and forever keep them so close to my heart. It is so extremely hard to process that Claire is gone. She deserved so much more out of life. On behalf of Kendall Zotel, Your Honor.
Thank you. Well, Maybe Sisson, please come up. I'm just going on the list. If you want to go in
Yeah,
a different
okay.
order,
Yes.
that's fine too.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'd just like to preface this by saying that I'll likely need some long pauses to compose myself and ensure that I'm conveying my message, and I will verbally indicate when I'm done with my speech. Okay, thank you. Honorable Judge Frenier, my name is Theodore Zotel, and I am Claire's brother. Today I will be reflecting on the time that has passed since my sister's death. I was 17 years old when Claire was murdered, and I am now 22. I was a junior in high school, and I was a senior in college. College has limited my time spent at home with my parents, but I visit when I can, and when I do, I take the opportunity to visit Claire's room. Her room has remained undisturbed since the crash, frozen in time. Claire's room floods me with memories, so I sit in her bed and I remember what life was like when Claire was alive. At 17, I was deeply struggling for other reasons, and Claire and I weren't the friends we should have been. Despite our bickering and not getting along, Claire had my back. I'm not sure if she understood what I was going through at only 13 years old, but I could say for certain she loved me with all her heart. Dad always said we were going to be the best friends someday. but I couldn't believe him at the time. I have since overcome those other struggles. It always haunts me that I did not do so sooner. We would have been best friends today. On December 29th, 2019, my family did not just lose my sister. We lost people that we were supposed to meet and children that were supposed to be born. There was a man out there that was supposed to fall in love with Claire. That day, I also lost the parents that I once knew. My mother was a high-octane, successful saleswoman, and my father was an energetic go-getter with many hobbies and passions. They are no longer the people they once were, fractions of their former selves, just doing their best like I am. The night Claire died, I made a decision to convince my parents that I was okay no matter what. My concern for them far outweighed my concern for myself. The less they had to worry about me, the better. And to this day, I've pretended to be okay, doing the best I can to make them proud and validate that they raised me right. I was so worried about them. Quarantine immediately followed my sister's death. I would consider the pandemic a time that brought many families together, but not mine. We each had our corners of the house, and we grieved. Silence broken by my mother sobbing, or my father screaming in anguish. I hid in my room, dealt with my grief alone, told everyone repeatedly I was okay. In 2020, I built a memorial bench dedicated to Claire for my Eagle project. It stands there today, with the message inscribed, "Life is a gift." That's why we call it the present. Claire's death has taught me that it is a privilege to have your family and relatives in your life, and even if your relationships aren't perfect currently, you have the luxury of time to grow and reconnect, time that we take for granted only until it's snatched from us. Over the past 5 years, I have been tormented by what should have been. Claire was going to get her license, graduate high school, and go to college this year. The two of us were supposed to finish growing up together. I did not just think about the milestones, but the little things as well. Driving my sister and I to school, fighting for the TV remote, being forced into doing a TikTok, negotiating chores, keeping an eye out on her stinking boyfriend, promising not to tell mom and dad things, feeling obligated to beat her in every game we play. These are just big brother things. I just listed some pretty ridiculous examples, but their absence has been incredibly painful. Many siblings take for granted an aspect of their life that I will never have again. Claire's soccer team renamed their annual tournament in her name, and I attended last year. Every player on that field proudly had the last name Sisson and the number 21 on their back. I cried. It reminded me of your games at Forges Field. I wish I could watch you play again. It was only after your death that I was able to understand how incredible you were at everything you did. We were murdered. Murdered. What a disgusting word. I hate saying it, but I'm going to say it one more time. Murdered. When I heard the verdict, I felt nothing. No verdict, sentencing, or anything else could ever bring you back. Our lives have been permanently changed forever, and I feel helpless. You're not coming back. I've come a long way from the Teddy you knew when you died. I know you're so proud of me, watching me grow, but your absence has only hurt more and more over time. 5 long years have passed, but I can't wrap my head around the fact that I have decades ahead of me without you. Today we are here for the sentencing of Mr. Zotel, but I have been given a life sentence myself. No parole. We all have. Every member of this courtroom sentenced for a life without Claire. Mr. Zotel has devastated my family and community permanently, so I recommend he is given a fair and equivalent sentencing to attempt to understand the irreversibility and longevity of his actions. I want him to serve as long as I do. I want him to suffer as long as I do. I did not believe in the afterlife before you died, but I realized that I need to. I still cannot fully accept that you are gone, and I'm not sure how I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life without you. I need to see you again, so now I believe that I will. But for now I will wait, make a life for myself and do the best that I can. I have found happiness and met incredible people, but in many ways I will always feel incomplete. I promise you that I will keep doing my best every day, and someday we'll be the best friends that we are supposed to be. I love you, Claire. It was an honor to have known you and be your brother. I'm done.
Howard, where's both of you? I didn't see him if I can.
Good morning, Your Honor. Honorable Judge, I'm writing this as Claire's grandfather, Pop, and on behalf of Grammy. We were once proud grandparents of 5 boys and 1 girl. On December 29th, 2019, our precious granddaughter, Claire, was taken from us by a totally irresponsible individual. I grew up very close to my grandfather, often considering him my best friend. My son also shared the same feelings with his grandfathers. My goal was to have similar relationships with my grandchildren. When Claire was murdered on December 29th, that critical relationship was taken from us and many other people. All we have left is the many good memories of Claire. When she was younger, Claire always enjoyed playing catch, coloring, and playing games with Grammy and me. Claire also showed some interest in knitting with Grammy. She always had smiles and laughter. Grammy and I missed these times as well as many others. We miss dining with Claire and her brother, who lost his dear sister on that dreadful day. 99 and Wendy's were her favorites, and she always ordered from the adult menu. We miss Claire sleeping over and waking with a smile. We miss Claire and her brother swimming in our neighborhood pool. We miss watching Claire playing soccer with her brother and 4 male cousins, and by the way, she really kept up with them. We miss watching Claire shooting baskets with her brother. We also miss watching Claire play team soccer with her exceptional skill. She could fool opponents by kicking with either foot. She was a natural athlete who also excelled in basketball. We believed that we would watch Claire playing soccer at a college level. This dream was also taken away on December 29th. We miss hearing about her fashion list as we shopped for Christmas and birthday presents. Unfortunately, Claire was taken just before becoming 14 on January 29th. Becoming 14 on January 5th. Most of all, we miss Claire. Okay. I also want to mention that we are heartbroken as we daily view pictures of Claire in our kitchen, in the hallway with all our other grandchildren, at our desk next to the computer. We are troubled about our son's dealing with Claire's death and how has it affected his employment and therefore his family income. He had worked for a company for 19 years but was fired shortly after Claire's death. He then changed jobs 3 times in the next 4.5 years. I believe these are all related to what happened on December 29th. Similarly, we are troubled by Elizabeth's injury, resulting in her not being able to drive, keep her lucrative job that allowed her to generate income for the family. With the loss of family income, our grandson needed additional employment to contribute to college expenses. During the summer, for example, he worked as an intern doing engineering functions and also bartending at a spa. I often lose sleep thinking that Claire can no longer compete in soccer, basketball, and cross country. This affects my ability to think clearly. Also, we are disturbed seeing the family boat sold, because boating was not the same without Claire and her close friend Kendall. We are full of regret when thinking all that Claire missed, such as dating, proms, driving, and sports at a high level. Our entire family missed celebrating my 80th birthday as we did on my 70th in Disney World. Claire had volunteered to plan the 80th family vacation. However, none of us wanted to celebrate after Claire's untimely death. We have fears that the defendant is being released too early and harming our family, the Zotels, and others seeking revenge. Again, most of all, we miss Claire. Thank you, Judge.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Heather Zotel. I would like to start by thanking the jury for all their time. There is so many more I would like to thank, because the Zotel family couldn't have gotten through this without you, and we are truly grateful. What we went through and the impact this has had on our family was unimaginable, a mother's worst nightmare. That call in the middle of the night or early morning. That fear will never be something I will never be able to let go of. My 10 weeks at Children's Hospital in Spalding took me away from my boys. Yes, there were visits, but the visits were sad and serious and affected their mental health. To see them as hurt as I was another knife digging into my very sad, terrified heart. I was there with Kendall day and night and praying like no one has ever prayed. I watched her lay in that hospital bed for weeks, hooked up to what looked like every machine in the hospital. She had tubes coming from all parts of her body. Once she woke up and her brain started to process, she wondered why she was getting cards from so many, but her best friend hadn't sent one. That was one of the hardest things I had to do as a mother. I had to tell Kendall Claire was no longer with us. Eventually, I would watch Kendall's recovery. I would watch her relearn to swallow, relearn to speak, relearn to eat, and relearn to walk. Gary and I would take dinner breaks and step away from Kendall's bedside. We would be in the cafeteria. I remember repeating over and over that I wanted to wake up from the nightmare. Luckily, and thank God we did. I wish we all could have woken up from that nightmare. Our hearts will forever be broken for the Sisson family. And for my girl, I will continue to pray hard that she has a long, healthy life. Thank you.
Twins. Zotel. Are you nervous to go snowboarding? You'll have the best time. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow night. Kendall would never be the same again. Phone's rings around 6:50 in the morning. Kendall's phone had recognized the impact of the crash. The phone company only thing could tell us that the accident happened in Pembroke. I called the Pembroke Police Department and was told after a pause, immediately get to South Shore Hospital. The ride for Heather and I from Plymouth to the South Shore Hospital seemed like a lifetime. When we got out of the car in Weymouth at South Shore Hospital, the only thing we were shown was Kendall's earrings and necklace. Otherwise, she was unrecognizable, laying in a bed with what seemed like 1,000 people around her. I remember being in the back of South Shore Hospital and one of the ambulance drivers hugging me and saying, "I'm so sorry." At that point, I thought Kendall was gone. An hour or so later, we were off to Children's Hospital. She had survived that hour. She survived for the first 3 to 4 hours, and we were told there'd be 2 major surgeries to help her survive and live through the night. Heather and I were sent to a tiny room at Children's to spend the night hugging each other. 4 hours went by. Any second we were waiting for the phone call saying she was gone. She survived the first major surgery, having her hips completely rebuilt, her pelvis. 4 more hours go by. She survives having both of her legs, rods put in that are in her legs to this day. She can't go through a metal detector today without the alarm going off because of rods that are in her legs. A reminder that her legs were shattered. Both legs were shattered. She survived that surgery. The next day, a 3rd and 4th more major surgery. One to open her from internal bleeding. Any one of these surgeries could have killed her. She survived that surgery. Seeing her laying in the bed, her legs held together with what looked like clamps. A 4th surgery to save her eye. Plastic surgery. We were told they didn't know whether she would see out of that eye again. A day later, it gets worse than any of these 4 surgeries. Doctors tell Heather and I that you're going to see Kendall's brain swell for 3 to 4 days. You're going to watch the numbers climb. And after those 3 or 4 days, the numbers will either continue to climb, and that'll be it, or the 4th day, the numbers may start coming down. You want to talk about someone's worst nightmare, watching that, as she lay in that bed. The swelling of her brain for 4 days. At one point, they had to basically drill a hole in her head to help alleviate the pressure. I would have jumped in that bed in a second to replace what she was going through. And then we meet with a neurologist, and they're told, they show us her picture of her brain. They had no idea what her condition was going to be, when or if she woke. This is the pain no parent should ever go through. We slept by her side every minute in a tiny air in a chair by the window, taking turns praying. Pain, just pain, horrible. Eating little, sleeping little, fear of the unknown. Day after day. Five weeks later, she had recovered enough to be able to be moved to Spalding, where we saw Kendall learn how to walk again. In a harness, walked around a room, learning how to eat again, giving ice chips. Her left arm, they said, could be paralyzed for her life. They worked on her arm. My boys, Dylan, Ryan, and Logan, were left at home for over 3 months, basically without their parents. I know to this day that pain haunts them. And they're doing amazing, and they show it on the outside, but I know everything that they had gone through. Heather and I took turns sleeping in Spalding. We rented a hotel room for 2 months, ate little. Months and months of rehab, years to get her strength back. Appointment after appointment, too many to mention, doctor after doctor. The scars on Kendall are permanent, they'll never go away. It's a constant reminder. She wears them, in a sense, like a badge of honor, so that she will never forget. My family is scarred for life. Kendall has scars, but we are all scarred from this senseless tragedy. The tentacles of this have spread wide. The town of Plymouth has been amazing. The fear that we have lived with, our lives have changed forever. I've seen the pain like no other. I've seen what the Sissons have gone through, what we've gone through. No family should ever, ever have to go through this. It's undescribable. Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, on the list, number 7, 8, and 9 are Kendall Zotel's brothers, Dylan Zotel, Ryan Zotel, and Logan Zotel, and they have submitted written statements, and they will not be read. So next is Riley Plant.
Hold on 1 second.
Yes.
So I have Dylan's
Dylan Zotel,
and I have Logan's, but I don't see one in my, unless it came in earlier. Was it in the earlier group?
no, it's this one. Yes, that's it.
Let me just take a moment to read those.
Thank you. That's someone different. Oh, it's not. Yeah, that's just an extra one.
read the three letters. Riley?
Thank you, Your Honor. Riley Plant. Does she not have her statement?
Your statement? I know, I read it. I just want to-
Signed at the bottom.
Madam Clerk, I have it. The comment doesn't have my on my desk in the back. Just hold one second.
This is the only unsigned. No, it says. They're Riley's, but it's different. Yeah. You did. I didn't see it. No, that was the aunt and uncle. When I move to the next person. Kendall's going up. He's going to look. Can't see Plant. Who's that? What else? It's Riley. Can't see. Let me see that person. No, there's Andrew. Yeah, I didn't see it.
I read them, so
When I skip.
why don't we skip to the next person and then Madam Clerk can print it out. Don't worry.
We'll find it and we'll figure it out, okay?
It's in the text. It's in the she puts her name in
Who's next? Your Honor, she has it on her phone, if she can just get her phone.
That's totally fine.
Thank you. Perfect. Take your time.
We're all set, Madam Clerk.
Hi, my name is Riley Plant, and Claire Rose Sisson was my very best friend. I met Claire while playing soccer when I was 6 years old. I loved Claire more than words could ever describe, but I'm going to do my best to describe this to you. Claire was the perfect friend. She was funny, kind, inclusive, loyal, understanding, and made everyone around her a better person. Claire took the word teammate to a whole new level. She would never take a selfish shot on goal. Instead, she would pass the ball to someone else and let them have the glory of scoring. She would make sure every single person on the team felt welcomed, boosted their confidence, and made sure they were having fun. Claire was the purest, most innocent person I ever knew. A friend like her only comes once in a lifetime. She can never be replaced. I'm so thankful for the times I spent with Claire. She had the best sense of humor and was able to make me laugh even on the toughest days. She was always so much fun to be with. A day with Claire was sure to be a great day. Claire was always there for support and encouragement. When we were 11 years old, Claire convinced me to sign up for recreational basketball. I had barely touched a basketball other than maybe gym class. I really had no idea how to play the game, but I knew I would be on her team. I also knew anything with Claire would be super fun, so I decided to play. I didn't know the rules of the game, and sometimes I got frustrated, but Claire always encouraged me. She helped me understand the game and pushed me outside of my comfort zone. But at the same time, she made me feel confident. She made basketball something I looked forward to every week. That's the kind of person she was. The times I spent with Claire are now precious memories that I hold close to my heart. To this day, the most favorite memory of my life is from July 21st, 2019. Our favorite professional soccer team from Liverpool, England, came to Fenway Park. Myself, Claire, and our families and a few other teammates attended the game. Nobody was as excited as Claire and I. We spent hours picking out which jerseys to wear and which headbands matched best. We showed up in our matching outfits, singing all the Liverpool songs and chants. Claire and I were only 13 years old, but we were the only ones that knew these songs. That day was so special. We hadn't even left the stadium by the time we were planning our trip to England to watch them play again. The impact of losing Claire has been deep and everlasting. Driving down Route 139 is not an option any longer. When I think about what I've lost, I feel selfish. It doesn't compare to what Claire lost. She lost her life. She lost opportunities. She didn't finish middle school. She never had her sweet 16. She never learned how to drive and never went to her junior prom. Claire never got to move her graduation tassel from right to left, and she never got to fill out a college application. She should have been able to do all these things, and I should have been there right beside her. She should be in all my pictures, and we should be making so many more memories. As hard as I try, there are just no words big enough to describe Claire. There are no words big enough to describe how much my heart hurts. I would give anything to have her back. Thank you.
Your Honor, next are the Lipkas, and they do not have a written statement they wish to speak.
My name is Laura, and I'm Claire's aunt. Darling Claire, empathetic, positive, helpful, happy, and full of delight. Whenever I feel low or upset about something, I always pull upon Claire's beautiful smile and think of her essence of happiness to help me through. Thank you.
Yes. Morning, Judge. Honorable Judge Frenier, my name is Andrew Lipka. I am Claire's uncle. My daughters Liz and Emily were Claire's first cousins. My wife Laura is Elizabeth Sisterson's sister. The impact of the loss of Claire has been so broad and deep. I'm going to speak about it in terms of the individual, family, community, and psychological impact. First, I want to recognize the court, the Commonwealth District Attorneys, and the Friends of Sisson and Zotel families. The steadfast, intelligent, and caring dedication of the District Attorneys cannot be overstated.
I want to especially call out the bravery of Kendall Zotel for the courage that she demonstrated in testifying during this trial. This young lady has been through hell and has worked hard to heal and to get herself into college. After living through the crash and the loss of her best friend, as a father, I can understand and even admire how Mr. Goodsel's father was here every day to support his family. I am perplexed as to why the Goodsell family would want all of us to relive this worst tragedy of our lives. Finally, I want to thank the Massachusetts State Police and the Pembroke Police Department, as well as all of the first responders. I cannot find words to express my appreciation for your valiant attempts to save my niece. To save my niece, Claire. I know that you did everything possible, and we're so lucky to have men and women like you in our community. I also believe that your perfect execution of every detail of your investigation supported the district attorney's ability to achieve justice. God bless you. God bless all of you. At 13, Claire was a playful, kind-hearted, and wise young lady. She was a true angel, and she and her family deserved to live an amazing life. Prior to her 14th birthday, she was murdered by a driver that had at least 3 illegal substances in his system prior to driving his work truck into the side of Elizabeth Sissons's car. The driver had numerous prior motor vehicle and other legal issues and made comments on social media about how much he and others would drink and party at the upcoming highway safety Christmas party. I'm relieved that justice was served and that Gregory Goodsell was held responsible for his actions and will not be able to make these incredibly bad decisions in the future. I'm not aware of Mr. Goodsell's ever expressing remorse to or about the Sisson and Zotel family. Your Honor, I respectfully request that you ensure that Mr. Goodsell is never again able to harm innocent people in the community. While we cannot bring Claire back by keeping Mr. Goodsell incarcerated, we will save other families from what the Sissons and Zimotels have been through. Mr. Gregory Goodsell, I call on you to find a way to honor Claire Sisson. Learn about her and do something that demonstrates remorse for taking this innocent life. This is the least that you can do to atone for the sin that you have committed with your reckless behavior. The Plymouth community lost a 13-year-old angel who was a great student, the best and kindest friend to dozens of her peers. She was popular, active in sports, and an honor student. The communities have rallied behind the Sissons and Zimotels in ways that are too broad and too deep to describe here today. The impact is one of remorse, sadness, and for many in law enforcement and first responder communities, the guilt that they feel for not being able to save Claire. A key point of impact is that the experience by the first responders that will never forget this horrific crash. They hold themselves responsible for saving lives and feel that they should have saved Claire. Many now and in the future require support to assist them with living a normal life, a life that they so deserve. My 2 daughters were close to Claire. We all felt that true sense of family. Our collective children grew up not only knowing their cousins, but by being together for so many family events they bonded. They experienced and have now lost those fun times, the good times that we all hope for in our lives. I believe that my daughters are coping in their own ways and are receiving the support that they need to try to make sense of the loss of their cousin. My youngest daughter cannot even speak about this crash without extreme anger. Soon after we lost Claire, my nephew Ted, who was an Eagle Scout, built a beautiful mahogany bench which sits overlooking the soccer field at the Rising Tide School in Plymouth. This bench honors Claire with an engraving that reads, Today is a gift. That is why we call it the present. Ted has been our rock through this horrific ordeal. However, the impact on him is forever, as he lost his best friend, his amazing sister, Claire. I have watched the impact on my courageous sister and brother-in-law. The crash created a medical nightmare for Elizabeth Zisserson, who has permanent disability from Mr. Gregory Goodsell slamming into her car at 67 miles per hour. My brother Ken is a strong, smart, extremely capable man. Ken and Elizabeth are tormented by the loss of their precious little girl. The Sisson family requires many forms of medical assistance, which is likely for the rest of their life. The impact on me is difficult to put properly into words. I still cannot believe or understand that my beautiful Claire is gone. Even the satisfaction of the legal system working correctly does not dampen the knife that has sliced through my heart and soul. As a young man, I joined the Marines and experienced sacrifice, challenge, and tragedy. I struggled for years after my service, only to learn years later that I was struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. I learned how to overcome this illness. However, the crash and loss of Claire has brought it all back. It has affected every waking moment of my life. It has impacted everything I do and the way that I interact with everyone that I meet. I have a caring set of providers who are helping me, but I only want two things. I want Claire back, and I want to ensure that no family ever endures this indescribable pain. Logically, I know that my first request is not possible. However, Judge Frenier, I beg you to ensure that my second request happens. And you can do that today. Your Honor, please recognize that the impact I've described is only a fraction of the total impact experienced by the crimes committed by Mr. Goodsell. I implore you to ensure that Mr. Goodsell be incarcerated for the maximum time allowed, to ensure that he can never again hurt another family. Respectfully, thank you, Judge.
Your Honor, next is Liz Lipka.
Honorable Judge Frenier. My name is Liz, and I'm Claire's cousin. Claire and I shared a bond that transcended our 15-year age difference. From the time she was born, we were inseparable whenever we were together. We would laugh, play silly board games like Pretty Pretty Princess, and snack on peanut M&Ms. In almost every picture of us, you can see it. We're clinging to each other, overflowing with love and joy. I was her big cousin, and she was the light in so many of my days. When my dad told me about the accident and that Claire wasn't going to make it, all I could say was, "But she's just a kid." That thought has stayed with me ever since. Claire was only 13. Just days away from turning 14. We often hear the phrase, they had their whole life ahead of them when someone young dies. But now I feel it instead of just hearing it when someone says that. When that statement is said about someone you love, someone so young, it stops being just words. It becomes the crushing reality you're forced to live with every day. Since Claire's death, I don't think I've been able to take a deep breath without feeling the crushing ache of loss. The weight of her absence is heavy, and it feels bottomless. She brought so much joy to everyone who was lucky enough to know her, and it's unbearable to think of the life she won't get to live. Claire didn't deserve what happened to her. She should still be with us. Her death created a before and after in my life. Before Claire passed, and after. Losing her didn't just take my cousin, it took away the future we were supposed to share. The moments we'll never experience together. I will always carry the weight of her loss, and I know it will never go away. There is no closure in situations like this. No amount of healing will ever balance out her death. Grief doesn't leave you, you just grow around it. But that pain is always there. I hope this court understands the enormity of what was taken from us, and from Claire. Not just a life, but a future full of possibilities that will never be realized. I beg the court to protect the world from Gregory Goodsell. Mr. Goodsell has been my boogeyman since the moment I learned of the accident. I see him in every white truck I pass while driving my white Subaru. He murdered my cousin and took everything from my family. Kendall Zotel should get to live her life without the fear that Gregory Goodsell is out in the world. She has a strength that none of us will ever come close to knowing. She deserves peace for the rest of her life. I personally have never met Kendall, but Claire loved her, so I love her. I got 2 tattoos for Claire after she died. One is a rose on my right hand, so I can see it every day. The other is a sentence that wraps around my left forearm. It reads, "There is a piece of you in everything I do." And that is true. Claire was stolen from us, so we have to live for her. But it really hurts. Please keep my family safe, and please keep the world safe. We've already lost too much. Thank you.
Your Honor, the last victim impact statement is Mr. Ken Sisson.
Morning. Here we go. To know Claire was to love Claire. I hate saying that in the past tense, though. Shortly after the car crash, there was a rush to our home from family, neighbors, friends. Later in the week, the funeral calling hours were held, and over 2,000 people came through those doors on a cold winter evening. I remember Claire's friends, classmates, teammates, and cousins coming through the line with the same look on their faces, shock and dread. For most of them, it was the first time they had to deal with the tragedy and their own mortality. It was a real demonstration of innocence lost. One day Claire was here, and the next she was gone forever. As the adults and parents came through the line, I kept hearing the same phrase over and over again. At the time, I didn't know how to respond. A few days later, on a similarly cold winter evening, there was a vigil held in downtown Plymouth at Brewster's Gardens, with over 3,000 people attending to denounce the choices and actions of the defendant. There were speeches given, songs sung, prayers offered. That evening, and subsequently to this day, I hear the same phrase. I can't even imagine. What I've learned to say after many years of not knowing what to say is simply the following. When someone says, I can't even imagine, I reply, you shouldn't have to, it's not natural. It's not natural to get a phone call that there was a car crash on a lazy Sunday morning after helping pack Claire and Kendall and Elizabeth to go off on a snowboarding adventure. It's not natural to be told on the way to the hospital not to worry about parking my car. That's when I knew it was serious. I can't even imagine. It's not natural to race into a hospital, be directed to my wife, who was pleading with me to check on Claire. It's not natural to see your daughter lying on an imaging board, motionless. I remember asking the nurse, can she hear us? And she replied, I hope so. It's not natural to be told your daughter needs emergency surgery just to make the drive to Boston for more extensive care. I can't even imagine. It's not natural to see your daughter being feverishly worked on by medical professionals, and slowly, one by one, they leave the room, only to be told that your daughter won't live through the night. I can't even imagine. You shouldn't have to see your beautiful daughter's mangled face and body after just seeing her verdant and full of life a few hours earlier. It's not natural to be handed a pen to approve your daughter's organ donation. That should have been the other way around. It was a symbolic moment that all hope was lost and Claire was not coming home. It is the worst memory I have of everything I have and will describe. I can't even imagine. You shouldn't have to. Watch your daughter's last breaths as the hospital slowly allowed her to pass away from her injuries. During that time, we had to endure watching our beautiful daughter spit up reddish-brown fluid that the nurses diligently would wipe away. I can't imagine. You shouldn't have to. Hear the confirmation from the hospital staff that, in fact, your daughter is dead. I can't even imagine. You shouldn't have to. Driving away from the hospital after those 14 hours of hell. The chemicals racing through my brain were unlike anything anyone should ever have to experience. I can't even imagine. You shouldn't have to hear that the car crash was caused by a drunk driver. I initially thought it was an elderly person who pressed the gas pedal instead of the brake. To hear that someone was drunk at 6:30 in the morning is not something I even fathomed. The emergency personnel knew before I did and tried to warn me about what I was about to find out. Shock has a weird way of bending the logical thought process. I can't even imagine. You shouldn't have to. All these years later, to be still terrified to go to sleep, knowing the nightmares are coming. Every night, over and over again. I can't even imagine. You shouldn't have to accept the graciousness of an entire community. The overwhelming amount of support is amazing, but unfortunately in this case, it is for a tragedy as opposed to a triumph. I can't even imagine, you shouldn't have to, watch a police video interview where the defendant, the person who just killed your child, is more concerned that the Patriots lost to the Dolphins that Sunday. I can't even imagine, you shouldn't have to think about on a constant basis what could, should, would have been. Claire was as innocent as possible. The defendant is why we are here today. This is a multi-generational tragedy. Claire would have had a family and most certainly would have continued to make the world a better place. Over the past 4 years and 9 months, my family and our friends have been forced to endure the court system to ultimately decide the defendant's crimes and sentences. Each time, the wounds growing deeper and deeper, not being allowed to heal. I'll remind the court that the defendant issued Claire a death sentence that fateful Sunday morning. Everyone in this courtroom and beyond who knew and loved Claire has received a life sentence of torturous grief. This is not just a case about Claire, it is about Elizabeth and Kendall as well. As such, if appropriate, I would ask that the sentences for each count run consecutively. If or when the defendant is released from prison, his penchant for disregarding norms, mores, and laws deeply concerns me that he will devastate another family and community. I'll end this with me repeating myself. To know Claire was to love Claire. Lastly, I want to thank the court, your staff, the DA's office, the various police and rescue personnel, and defense counsel. Everyone has worked diligently to end this chapter of this horror story. Thank you.
Your Honor, may we just inquire if there's anyone else that has changed their mind and wishes to speak? Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So I'll hear first from the Commonwealth with regard to the overall sentencing recommendation.
But as we discussed earlier, what things the court may consider, what things the courts may not consider. Everything that the court can consider has already been presented. And it started on September 6th or 7th, the first day of testimony. All of the witnesses' testimony, the exhibits, all established the profound, significant nature of this offense. What you heard today, I can't possibly supplement, top. It's not my day. The court now has all of the resources available to it, and I sincerely ask the court to apply them and issue a just sentence as recommended by the Commonwealth.
Thank you. Right back, Colin.
Yes, thank you.
And by the way, you could proceed in either way. You can argue, and then the defendant can allocute, or he can allocute, and you can argue.
Actually, given the nature of the victim impact statements, I'm glad Your Honor has given my client that opportunity. I think some of the questions some of the victims had articulated may be answered, and I think it'd be appropriate that Mr. Goodsell address the court at this time. I've asked him to address you directly as to not cause any discomfort of the family, of him looking at the family.
Right, that's appropriate.
Mr. Please, Steve.
For the amount of pain that I have caused, both emotionally and physically, how could I possibly think saying sorry for my actions that morning are good enough to anybody involved in this? Involved in this absolutely devastatingly tragic accident. Because of my out-of-control mindset and chaotic behavior that entire night, a young lady with a bright future ahead of her is no longer alive. Because of that morning, another young lady and a very caring mother have suffered horrible life-affecting injuries, physically as well as mentally. Because of that morning, a close-knit community has been affected emotionally from such a horrible event happening to such good, innocent people. And because of that morning, I will most likely never see most of my family ever again, and my 6-year-old daughter Avery has to grow up without a father. Nobody should ever have to attempt to live through the pain that I have caused to all these people through my careless, destructive behavior on the morning of December 29th, 2019. If I could go back to that day and die instead of Claire, I would in a heartbeat. But unfortunately, I can't do that. Unfortunately, I did choose to go to that party that night, knowing it was probably a bad idea. And I allowed myself to become completely vulnerable to any situation that arose. Because of that decision, I shamefully take responsibility for my actions and can hold nobody accountable except for myself. I have attempted to get the mental health help I've so badly always needed, and have taken as many classes and programs as I could to try to become a better man. The constant nightmares, never able to sleep because of what I did that morning. That is something that I will carry with me for the remainder of my life, knowing that the pain my actions caused. Every morning I try to look at myself in the mirror and I ask myself, is there any way that I could ever possibly be the type of adult that I want my child to grow up to be? No matter what I do in my life, that answer will always be a hard no because of what I did that morning. This is the worst possible nightmare, as well as lesson of my life. And now all I can do is try to help other people who are dealing with similar issues than I was, with mental health and addiction problems, and try to help guide them to get the help they need before their path leads them to the same nightmare of a life as my path led me. So am I sorry? There are no words to describe how I feel for everybody affected by what I did. Sorry is the biggest understatement of my life. And I sincerely apologize from the bottom of my heart to the Sisson family, the Zotel family, the community, the first responders involved, my family, and anybody else affected by my actions. Not a day or night goes by that I don't get on my knees and pray for everybody involved. God bless you all.
Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. I did make a submission. I know Your Honor has read it. In response to some of the victim impact statements, as you are aware, Your Honor, I'm only been on the case about a year. I first met Mr. Goodsell a year ago, October of 2023. I've seen him probably at the jail a dozen times or so. He has always been extremely remorseful. First words we talk about is the remorse he has and the pain. You have his background. He comes from a family of alcoholics on both sides, multi-generational alcoholics and addictive issues and substance issues. His mother, I believe, still lives in a rehab at this time due to her own issues. You heard that he is a father. He's a father of a little girl. He's indicated to me conversations he's had with this little girl. He's been straight with her at 6 years old, that he's not coming home because of his actions. And he said the words to me, reflecting on those phone calls, that he's not coming home because he killed a little girl. He's told her that. He's someone that in jail, in my career as a criminal defense attorney, this is unique because this is a unique situation of the type of crime that's been committed, and the jury's found him guilty of murder. He's not a typical, what I suggest from my experience, murderer, if you will. While in jail, I submitted my sentencing memorandum, his programs. I think I just updated it earlier this week. No less than 30 programs he's attended. They run the gamut of everything from AA and NA and groups and counseling as to substance use and substance abuse, but they go into trying to get better education, his own education, whether it be for jobs or whether it be for knowing how a person works, how to participate in recovery, how to help other people, as well as getting more involved in his own faith. This is not lost on Mr. Goodsell. This is not once did he attempt in our preparation for the defense to try to point the blame somewhere else. This is a case in which he's always accepted, without going into lawyer-client communications necessarily, he's always accepted responsibility. Never once did he say, well, this is someone else's fault or anything of that nature. Your Honor, there are several purposes for sentencing, and I suggest this may be the hardest part of your job on that side of the bench. It was a long trial, and I suggest exhausting for everybody here in this room, including Your Honor. But this is a very difficult decision of what is the appropriate sentence. There are several purposes for sentencing, several goals of sentencing, if you will, some of which include retribution or punishment. What's the appropriate punishment for the purpose of punishment? One of them is restitution. I suggest that's not even an issue in this case of restitution, but rehabilitation, reintegration, removal from society, and deterrence. While Mr. Goodsell has been incarcerated these past several years, coming up on 5, he has taken every opportunity that the system he was currently in, the Plymouth County House of Correction, to try to rehabilitate himself, to give him tools to reintegrate himself into society as a better person than when he entered the jail. Any sentence that Your Honor imposes to the guidelines, whether upward or downward departure, there's a certain amount of removal that's happened and is going to continue to happen. He's going to be removed from society. In my proposal, I suggested that a 15 to life on the murder, and then concurrent sentences on the remainder of the offenses. He has approximately 4 years in. He's going to be removed at a minimum another 11 years on my proposal. That's if he would make parole. And I suggest to you That's no guarantee in our system that anyone makes parole first time. I suggest that he's going to continue to take advantage of programs. When he goes to state prison, there's many more opportunities than the county can provide to assure himself that this will never happen again. In the last part, deterrence, I suggest there's two parts to deterrence. One is any sentence you impose, and I suggest this case is right on point. He was convicted of murder for something I suggest people in our society never think of when they get behind the wheel having some drinks. This should have a deterrent effect on the community. When it's been in the papers, people have contacted me about the case when they see that I was the defense counsel. It's already had a great deterrence on the public as to the impact of what could be the impact of drinking and driving. But also deterrence on Mr. Goodsell. Does this sentence or this conviction provide a deterrence for him for ever doing it? Well, you heard his own statement. I suggest to you that some of the things that he's discussed with me, and it's in the paperwork I provide Your Honor. This is something that if he's ever released from prison, he wants to be active in helping other people not make the same mistake. He wants to educate and tell his story in a way that should help others and stop others from ever doing this kind of thing. As you heard from him, and it's in the paperwork, he has actively participated in that kind of behavior at the House of Correction, counseling others. And also, I suggest that would likely carry on to any state prison sentence. I don't remember exactly how many years ago, Your Honor, the Commonwealth, the legislature enacted the manslaughter law, OUI, Melanie's Law, if you will. I believe Melanie's Law involved parties that came out of this county. Melanie's Law, the legislature indicated for this kind of thing, an 8 to 12-year sentence. My client was convicted of murder, though, not just that charge. But that's why I suggest that it should be run concurrent. That a 15 to life on a murder is a very significant sentence. My client does come before you. He does have other contacts, if you will, with the law as a young man, and he has come from a life of addictive behaviors and substance use behaviors that get him here today. Those are all things to be considered, clearly. But a 15 to life, that's a real sentence. That's a real commitment, if you will. I suggest that the goals of any sentence, whether it be rehabilitation, retribution, reintegration, removal, or deterrence, any of those goals are achieved with a defense recommended sentence. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take a brief recess. I'll see probation in the back. And Madam Clerk.
Court, all rise.
was it? It's a good thing it didn't rain. So, yeah, so their wives, kids. So they go away. And that's why you see, like, when I'm over there, my brain is and all of a sudden I can see and the flowers and the birds and everything. That's all that is.
Say to the DA's office, my ending comment about thanking you, DA's office, those weren't just platitudes. It really is from the bottom of my heart. I mean, we're concluding this thing today. And without your hard work, Tina's hard work, these gentlemen's hard work, we'd still be doing this. So, again, it's not just platitudes. It really is from the bottom of my heart. My best team.
Goodsell, all parties are present in the courtroom.
You're standing.
Call for Mr. Sentencing.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gregory Goodsell, you stand before this court for your sentencing following you can be seated. I have a few things to say. Following the verdict of guilty on September 24th, 2024, my starting point is to accept the unanimous verdict of the jury that you are guilty of the crimes of murder in the second degree, manslaughter by motor vehicle, OUI, and a .08 blood alcohol content, 2 counts of operating a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol, or the BAC of .08 or above, causing serious bodily injury, and leaving the scene of an accident after causing property damage. There is no task facing a judge that's more important or more difficult than crafting an appropriate sentence. And that responsibility becomes even more difficult, whereas here, Mr. Goodsell's conduct caused such a tragic result. The loss of an innocent young woman, Claire Rose Sisson, and the devastating impact on her family and the community, and the serious physical and emotional injuries to Kendall Zotel and Elizabeth Sisson. As with any sentencing decision, I've carefully considered and assessed the information before me in light of the sentencing goals that counsel has talked about: punishment, deterrence, protection of the public, and rehabilitation. In making my assessment, I've considered the circumstances and the severity of the offense, the recommendations of the Commonwealth and of the defendant, the victim impact statements so eloquently and heartfelt today, and all of those in writing that I read either today or before today. All of your impact statements and letters give me a little glimpse into the beauty and light that you've described that was lost. I've considered the defendant's lack of any criminal history. I've also considered the sentencing guidelines, which, as I mentioned, were established by the Sentencing Commission, created by our legislature, and that consists of people on all sides of the case: prosecutors, defense counsel, public safety, and correctional officials, as well as victim witness advocates. While not mandatory, these guidelines were designed, among other goals, to promote consistency in the sentencing process and in our judicial system. It's my responsibility to consult my own conscience, exercise my discretion in order to punish Gregory Goodsell justly. Judicial discretion does not commit to the court to assign a value to a victim's life, because every human life is incalculable. Judicial discretion does not permit me to render a sentence out of emotion or a public desire for vengeance. I've considered the life of an innocent, remarkable, bright light, Claire Sisson, a 13-year-old girl, beloved by her family, a compassionate and kind friend who was taken because of your criminal conduct. As I said, the written and oral statements by the people that spoke and submitted letters portray enormous grief, sense of loss, and some anger that resulted from Claire's tragic death. The Sisson family, Elizabeth, Ken, Teddy lost their beloved daughter and sister, and the Plymouth community has lost its beloved neighbor, uniquely special friend, and teammate. Again, it's clear to me after listening and reading to the victim impact statements that Claire brought tremendous joy, laughter, and compassion to her family and really to all the people that she came in contact with in her short life. I'm sure that nothing I say and no sentence I will impose today will lessen the grief of Claire's family, and so many others have endured and will continue to endure. I have also considered that the crash that ended Claire Zisterson's life also caused life-altering bodily injury to Elizabeth Zisterson and Kendall Zotel. Claire's family understandably has asked that this court punish Mr. Goodsell to the fullest extent allowed for by the law. While the penalty range for murder in the second degree is life in prison, it carries with it the possibility of parole after 15 years. Thus, at 36 years old, if paroled, Mr. Goodsell might still have the opportunity to lead some productive life, although one forever burdened with the horrific results of his intentional behavior. That, I am sure, seems unfair to Claire Zisterson's family and friends. While I'm respectful of your feelings, I'm also mindful that the court should not and will not impose a sentence based on emotion. I have considered the nature and circumstances of the offense, the conduct and character of the defendant, as well as the nature and degree of physical harm to Claire, Elizabeth, and Kendall. The sentence I have crafted will, I believe, punish Mr. Goodsell for his actions, deter him from any future misconduct by forcing him to consider what he did and to learn to appreciate the gravity of acting without care for the obvious consequences of his actions, and will protect the public. As to the goal of rehabilitation only, in crafting the appropriate term of probation, and there is a probationary part of my sentence. Should Mr. Goodsell ever be released on probation, I have appropriately considered the hearsay information in the police reports presented by the Commonwealth, which I find reliable and not inaccurate or misleading, reporting the defendant's past driving conduct as it relates to crimes for which he has been convicted. Again, I have considered this reliable information only for the purpose of crafting probation conditions. I specifically state I have not considered that information for the purpose of punishment or sentencing on indictment 0, 1, 2, 4, or 5. As the law, under the law, it would be inappropriate for me to do so. Mr. Goodsell, please stand. Mr. Goodsell, as to indictment 001, charging murder in the second degree, I sentence you to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 20 years. For charge 002, manslaughter by OUI, I sentence you to 12 years and 1 day in state prison to run concurrent with count 001. As to indictment number 4, charging driving a motor vehicle while OUI, causing serious bodily injury to Kendall Zotel. I sentence you to 8 years and 1 day from and after the sentence on 001. As to count 5, the same charge, causing serious bodily injury to Elizabeth Zisterson. I sentence you to 6 years and 1 day to run from and after the sentence on 001, concurrent with your sentence on 004, Jail credits will be awarded by the clerk. With regard to indictment 06, leaving the scene of property damage, I sentence you to 5 years of probation from and after your sentence on counts 004. Conditions will include that you are to stay away and have no contact with the family of Claire Sisson or Kendall Zotel. You are to have a substance abuse evaluation and any recommended treatment. You are to have a mental health evaluation and any recommended treatment. There will be no use of alcohol or drugs, legal or illegal. You will submit to random urine screens, testing for alcohol and or drug use. You will not be permitted to operate a motor vehicle and or apply for a reinstatement of your motor vehicle license in Massachusetts or for a license to operate a motor vehicle in any other jurisdiction. And this may overlap with the statutory or with the loss of license that's precipitated by the conviction, but it's a separate condition of your probation. In addition, Mr. Goodsell, you'll be required, if you are ever released on probation, to perform 50 hours of community service each year at a program approved by probation that reflects and is appropriate to the crimes for which you have been convicted, such as working with victims of automobile crashes. Madam Clerk, you may impose a sentence.
Mr. Goodsell, on docket number 2083 CR 00070, on offense number 001, the court sentences you to be incarcerated in the Massachusetts Correctional Institution at Sousa Baranowski for the term of life with the possibility of parole in 20 years. On offense number 002, the court sentences you to be incarcerated in the Massachusetts Correctional Institution at Sousa Baranowski for the term of not more than 12 years and 1 day, but not less than 12 years. This sentence is to run concurrent with the sentence imposed on offense number 001. On offense number 004, the court sentences you to be incarcerated in the Massachusetts Correctional Institution at Sousa Baranowski for the term of not more than 8 years and 1 day, but not less than 8 years. This sentence is to run from and after the sentence imposed on offense number 001. On offense number 005, the court sentences you to be incarcerated in the Massachusetts Correctional Institution at Sousa Baranowski for the term of not more than 6 years and 1 day, but not less than 6 years. This sentence is to run from and after the sentence imposed on offense number 001 and is to run concurrent with the sentence imposed on offense number 004. On offense number 006, the court places you on probation for a term of 5 years. This term of probation is to begin from and after the sentence imposed on offense number 004 and 005. While on probation, you'll be subject to the standard conditions of probation as well as the following special conditions. You are to stay away and have no contact, directly or indirectly, with the family of Claire Zisserson and Kendall Zotel. You are to undergo a substance abuse evaluation and any recommended follow-up treatment. You are to undergo a mental health evaluation and any recommended follow-up treatment. You are to refrain from the use of alcohol or drugs, legal or illegal. You are to submit to random urine screens, testing for alcohol and or drug use. There is to be no operation of any motor vehicle, and in order that you are not to apply for reinstatement of your motor vehicle license in Massachusetts or for a license to operate a motor vehicle in any other jurisdiction. You're hereby notified of your loss of license. And in addition, you will be subject to perform 50 hours of community service each year at a program approved by probation that reflects and is appropriate to the crime to which you have been convicted, such as working with victims of automobile crashes. Sir, I must advise you of your right to appeal under Superior Court Rule 65. If you wish to do so, you must do so in writing within 30 days. You also have a right to appeal your sentence under Superior Court Rule 64. If you wish to do so, you must do so in writing within 10 days. You'll be credited with time spent while awaiting disposition in this matter. That will be 1,740 days. The $110 DNA fee and the $150 legal counsel fee, which was previously assessed, those have been waived. The court does assess a $90 victim witness fee. You stand committed, sir.
Thank you, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This court
Court stands in recess.
Yeah, 365, 369, yeah. Yeah, I know.
He said it.